Good day, good people. In today's lesson, we want to talk about time management as part of examination advice. Chekutanga, we have to acknowledge that time is part of the examination. The very reason why we are given a duration, this paper is written in 2 hours, this paper is written in 3 hours, in our kuti, time is part of the examination. So how do we manage time? In order for us to be able to manage time, we should first answer the question. And this is the question. How much time should I allocate? So it's how much time should I allocate to one mark? Saka mafunga kuziva kuti each mark ine weight yakaita sei in terms of time. Zvandiri ngoreva ndezvekuti how many minutes, how many seconds should you spend answering a question which has 1 mark? To be able to answer this question, you need to apply your knowledge of proportion and ratio. And let us do a very small calculation, but this time using a typical O-level maths question paper, which is written in 2 hours and is made up of 100 marks. So the proportion is going to be 100 marks. Tinofanirwa kudzi answer in 2 hours, which we are going to express in minutes as 120 minutes. Saka mvunzo wedu panapa uri kuti ko 1 mark inoda nguva yakareba sei kuti tianze, because we do not know how many minutes tichati x minutes. Saka this is the proportion we are going to do. Saka kuisolva iyi hakunetse. We are going to make a fraction out of the left hand side, then the right hand side, and out of everything we make an equation. Saka ndiri kuti chi, ndiri kuti tichati 100 over 1, then to replace a semicolon na equal to not 120 over x, like this. Saka we want to solve for x and we want to apply cross multiplication. Saka x ichauya uku. This is equal to 120 yoramba iri pairi, 100 yodzika ichiuya kuno. Kureva kuti solving our question just required to divide 100 into 120. Saka kuna ava vanofunga intuitively, you could have just simply divided 100 marks into 120 minutes, since tiri kuda kutsvaga how many minutes could we allocate to 1 mark. So what we do is we cancel out here 10 into curve, that's 1, comma, add a placeholder, 10 into 20 is 2. Kureva kuti we are being told 1 mark is equal to 1.2 minutes. But to put this into perspective, let us convert 1.2 minutes to kuti this 0.2 inorevei. So we can easily say 1 plus 0.2, and everything is minutes, remember? In over 1 plus 2 over 10, to convert this decimal into its associate fraction, multiplying 60 seconds, which is a minute. If we do this in 2 times 6, that's 12, kureva kuti it's 1 minute. This is our conclusion, 12 seconds, approximately 1 minute. Saka masitirwo akaitwa bepa re-O-level ratiri kushandisa. This advice is going to work for any paper you are going to write. be it mathematics or any other subject, but we are using an example of mathematics. Saka, from this example, we have deduced through calculation kuti 1 minute kana kuti 1 mark inofanirwa kuanswa in 1 minute. That's the design. 12 seconds idzo, it only matters in the long run. Kureva kuti if we do this, we take 12 seconds dziri kuwanikwa pa every minute yatiri kunyora and multiply it. Let us say we multiply it by an hour, which is 60 minutes. What do we get? 6 times 2, that's 12, 81. 6 times 1, 6 plus 1, that's 7. So 720 seconds on top of an hour. And if we convert these to minutes, which is this simple calculation, dividing by 60, it's 1 panel, 1 and 2. We are getting 12 minutes. Saka 12 seconds dzinozongomeka sense kana taunganidza maminutes akawanda. But let us work with the rough approximation yekuti every mark should be answered in a minute. What does this mean practically? This means, let us say that you are answering your question paper. You get to a situation where there is a question. So let me just formulate a rough question panaba. Maybe the question will say, you toss a coin and you record the outcome. What is the probability of getting heads? Uveanzi 3 marks. So when you get to a question with 3 marks, ndangopa just a rough example, you have to be able to answer this question in how many minutes? In 3 minutes. So 12 seconds dziya and anabateta kuti plus 12 times 3. And what do we get from 12 times 3? 3 times 2 is 6 and 3 times 1 is 3. We get 36 seconds, which is roughly half a minute. Meaning, if you answer this question in exactly 3 minutes, you are going to save 36 seconds. And 36 seconds is plus this unit just save those just will create a time after to answer every question to do our revision and make sure we have answered everything to the best of our ability. Saka, this 3 minutes is more like a cap. Chirikuti, your time should be less than or equal to 3 minutes. Saka kana zvinhu zvarema ndo patingato answer such a question in 3 minutes. But typically, we should answer a 3 marks question in less than 3 minutes. So what happens when you get to a question? There is always that question which is going to require you to pause a little, to think. Such questions, the way you deal with them, you should apply what I call the first thought. Saka kune inonzi first thought, according to me. A first thought, when you look at a question, you should be able to deduce, like something in you should tell you that you are able to work through that question. Saka mchiverenga this question, you toss a coin and you record the outcome. What is the probability of getting heads? If you do not feel within you that you are able to answer this question, whatever you have to pause, and when you pause, you apply what I call the second thought. Kweseni mufanga kumboisiya kutomboimira, and you keep on with the paper, because the idea of writing a question paper is not to finish the question paper. That's not the idea. That's why pamunozoenda ku-advanced level, if you are doing mathematics, the paper is out of 120, but it is weighted out of 100. Without the mark you get out of 120 is automatically your percentage. If you get 110, it is said you have 100%. If you get 80, you have 80%. But if you get 60, if we were weighting the paper out of 120, it means unenge une 50% because 60 is half of 120, but you actually have 60%. The reason is 20 marks is the way to allow for error. Uye 20 marks is exactly a bonus, because if you get a 0 azvireve kuti automatically you have a 20, but dzakangoisirwa kuitira kuti zvinzwisiswe kuti the goal of writing is not to finish. What then is the goal of writing? The goal of writing is to collect as many marks as possible. Saka when you hit a brick wall, you get a question where you cannot answer using your first thought. You need a second thought. You leave it so that you make sure you answer every question you can, in quotes, naturally answer. Questions which come relatively easier to you. Then when you have answered every question, you then can go back to the questions you required a second thought, but still applying the 1 mark, 1 minute rule. So another advice I would give is, let us say you are writing your paper. You write number 1, number 2, number 3. For simplicity's sake, let us assume it's out of 10. Then number 4, you leave it because you require the second thought. 5, 6, 7, you leave number 8, 9, and 10. The way you revise this, what I think is, the moment you left number 4, your brain, your mind started to sort of think around the concepts which are required to answer number 4. Pamasiya number 4, pfungwa dzenyu dzatanga kufunga. In your background mind, you started to think kuti number 4 inoanzwa sei. Kana paine a formula yamanga maita semakanganwa, maybe it will come back during this period. So when you go back for a second thought, I would advise that you start with the first question you left out. Don't start with this question, because when you start with number 4, you are also creating enough chance for number 8. And when you really hit a brick wall, please write anything that makes sense to you. Hopefully, what makes sense to you will also make sense to the examiner. The last thing I want to do is, I want us to go through a calculation which estimates if we are to move with the 1 minute, 1 mark rule, tinosiya nguva yakareba sei. In a 2 hours examination, tinosiya nguva yakareba sei kuti tipedze. To do this calculation is not difficult, because it just means per 100 marks, we are just going to multiply it by 1, kuti tiwane 100 minutes. And per 100 minutes idzi, we just divide by 60, kuti tizive kuti ma-hours mangani uye ma-minutes mangani. So if you cancel out this, 6 into 6, it's 1. 6 into 10, it's 1, which is 1 hour. What is the remainder per 6 into 10? The remainder is 4. Saka panapa teta kuti 6 into 10, it's 1, remainder 4. Knowing kuti 4 e, we can actually write it as 1.4 kana kuti 1 and 4 over 10. Kureva kuti in terms of hours and minutes, it's just 1 hour 40 minutes. Saka if you follow this rule, 1 minute, 1 mark, you finish your paper in 1 hour 40 minutes. Then of course we take 100, subtract it from 120, put it aside in 20 minutes. So if you follow the 1 mark 1 minute rule, so you have 20 minutes to revise your work, which is good. The last piece of advice is you do not have to be strict when it comes to adhering to the 1 minute 1 mark rule. The idea is from the questions you are the most comfortable, you should do them as quickly as possible so that you create enough time for those questions where you are not the most comfortable. Zvandiri kureva ndezvekuti nema questions akakusunungikirai, let us say you are really good at adding fractions. So when you get to a question of adding fractions, yakanzi 2 marks. Make sure that you do it, if possible, in 30 seconds, in a minute. So that this minute Ramasiya, actually it's a minute and 12 seconds. Sorry, it's a minute and 24 seconds. Yakuchishandiswa kupi kune question a probability where you need to think more than once using the first thought, second thought phenomena. Saka, that is what I would advise. Otherwise, I wish you the best. I also wish you justice. You should know that hakuna umwe mshonga in any mathematical discipline except practice and practice. Because in an examination, you do not necessarily have time to think. You only have time to apply. You cannot think of anything in an examination. The only time you have is to apply what you already know. Saka momba ikorere pa market. Please practice your mathematics. A simple rule is, if you are a student, a mathematics student, irregardless of what level you are at, be it you are preparing for grade 7, form 4, form 6, or you are in tertiary education, just make sure every single day under the sun, you work through questions in mathematics. You learn something new. For those who are doing English, for example, the trick would be to learn a new word every day. That's how we learn. For those who are doing mathematics, the trick would be to learn a new concept, a new way of working through a problem, to just be comfortable with mathematical problems. You get a lot of questions from a green book, my red spot, your textbooks, question papers from your respective schools, your peers, artificial intelligence, many applications which supply you with a lot of questions which you can work through, so that when the day comes, you are just sort of regurgitating, and to regurgitate kudzeya kubukura zvawakatodzidza kudhara. Thank you and have a nice one.